10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us. Got a great show planned for you today, as usual. Guaranteed or your money back. Thankful that we're on CKLU 96.7 FM on the radio. Grateful for CKLU and all of the work that they've done over the years to provide us with, a platform to have free speech here in this country, and not only free speech, just to be able to get on and someone
Greta
be a
Thunberg.
volunteer as I'm going through some of these videos. I just wanted to catch the video that I wanted to play for today's show, and I'm not sure if I have it or not, but hopefully I'll be able to get it. And but in the meantime, just want you to know that we are live on CKLU 96.7 FM on the radio, terrestrial radio. We're also streaming live on the internet at we're on the internet at cklu.ca. Just looking for this particular video that I'm looking for here, and I should be able to find it. And there we go. I did find it. It didn't take me all that long, so that's good. I'm glad I got it. Because I just really want to touch on a specific subject today, because I'm tired of it. England, the UK, they're talking about starting a supposed new program where they are going to dim the sun, right? They're going to dim the sun. So what does that mean? Exactly. Well, we're going to get into that, and we'll talk more about that.
they were curious.
As the show progresses. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to get the show to the video to work. It looks like it's having a hard time, but now we fixed it. But we want to talk about this new initiative it's a solar radiation program, and they're saying they want to spray jet fuel into the skies to form clouds to be able to bounce the rays of the sun back to space to cool the planet. Now, they're saying this is a new thing and they're just starting it. However, it's been around since the late 80s. The technology's been around, since the turn of the century, the 20th century. And they've been doing it periodically in different forms. During wartime, they'll spray certain areas to assist the weather in whatever way, shape, or form, to control the weather, if you will. And people say, they can control the weather? Well, yeah, they've been able to control the weather for years and years and years and years, right? And so it's just starting to kind of peek its head out into the mainstream. I've been talking about it since we started Sudbury News Talk. And people are wondering, okay, well, what is this? Well, you'll find out on today's show. So I just want to let everyone know that's what we're going to be talking about today. As I'm driving through all of the rain yesterday, and then looking at the weather, which we're not even going to do today because we're just going to do this instead of having the weather, is look at how weather's already been modified and controlled, and to a large degree. Like, this is not just some small thing. I am very tired, and everyone who knows me is tired of me pointing it out every time we're driving. Look at the sky. Look at that. That's not natural. Like the cloud formations, they aren't even clouds. They're just a big mess of chemicals in our skies. And I'm just dumbfounded how people can't see that. They just can't see them being sprayed every day right over their heads. I just can't fathom how that's possible. So, and I wish I was with some of these people that I see on the show or just hear, here and there as I'm talking to them that about this and they don't believe it. It's just, I wish they were with me and I would just ask them, what kind of cloud is that? Let's look it up on the internet here. Let's take a picture of it and ask AI what type of cloud that is. Because they're not clouds. They're just chemical formations in the sky most of the time. We rarely get remember those big puffy clouds we used to get back in the day? Just look up in the sky, blue sky with big puffy clouds. It's very rare. It's very rare. We just get, just straight lines that turn into just gray skies, not really clouds. It's just a spray in the sky. Anyways, so we're going to be talking about that today, and I'm sick and tired of it. Who wants to live in a world where they're spraying over your head every day? Who knows what? Like, let's get away from me. I wish I had a huge fan that just blows this stuff away. I just wish, you know what I mean? Or whatever. Or, we got to the people who are behind doing this. And you know what I'm saying? So it would, have a nice conversation with them and say, why are you doing this? Like, really, honestly? Like, what is the end game? What's the end goal of all this stuff? Right? So that is what it is. And with that, we're streaming live at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow the channel and the page. And we'll be on demand afterwards on those two platforms along with X. But mainly comment. We'll do our best to get your comments up on the screen and read at the beginning of the show. And we'll head on. We just want to dive into geoengineering is what it's called. The geoengineering or solar radiation therapy for the sky. I just made that last part up, but it's solar radiation technology. And it's all to do with climate change, apparently, to help cool the planet. And that's a very controversial thing once you start messing with the natural temperature of the planet. And one would say, oh, we're already messing with it. Okay, so we've already done enough damage. Why don't we make more damage, right? So I don't really agree with any of that. Local headlines here. You got Ontario sees sharpest rise in measles yet with the 223 new infections since last week. More than 1,200 people have been infected with the virus since October 24th. That's from Sudbury.com. And there's a picture of a fine gentleman there with the headline. I'm not sure if I can make it. I'll make it full. Why not? If you guys can see here. And we'll get used to more of this in Canada. So pay attention. They're probably going to roll out more of the solutions to the problems, if you know what I'm saying. Now here's what I'm talking about here. Let's just get to the chase. Northern Ontario farmer worries flooding could take his property and nearby homes. A fourth-generation farmer in Northern Ontario worries the nearby Gooley River will eventually destroy his family farm and several homes downstream from his property. Again, right? So we're being warned of flooding all over the city. Sure, that's fine. And if it's a natural event, I'm all about that. You can't, Mother Nature is Mother Nature. You got to go with it. But what if we asked ourselves, is this on purpose? Are there people that have the ability to control the weather? And if they do, are they choosing to make the type of weather that's causing these types of things happening, these types of outcomes flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes, you name it. And if they are, why are they doing it, and why are they targeting certain areas at certain times? And if they have it, why aren't they making it rain on drought-stricken areas so that way farmers could actually grow food and not destroy family farms, right? And so, yeah, you might say, oh, AJ, you're getting all conspiratorial on us. Well, don't worry. We'll have the information in a few moments to kind of inform people about what I'm talking about. Good morning, Northern Hillbilly. Looks like someone went to bed. Okay, yeah. If you're talking about me being tired, that's for sure. Nana, good morning to you. Blessings to all. Heart emoji. When all else fails, take the guy to war. Well, okay, I guess. And Disabled Kane is on. Good morning to you. Love CKLU and free speech. If they deviate from that, they will have to change the call letter CK. Okay, got it. I'll leave that up to the people watching. Okay, so Judy, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. Hazel, good morning. Prayer emoji, same to you, Hazel. And Denise, good morning to you. Good morning, Pat. Got some cool emojis going on. Belinda, good morning. Keep speaking the truth. Nothing strengthens authority so much as silence. If they won't listen, move on and warn others. Okay, that'll be the theme of the show today, I guess. And Liette, hello. Hand clap emoji from Collingwood. Good morning to you. And Sylvia, nice to see you on. Good morning to all. Thank goodness it's Friday. There you go. That's Denise. Yes, for sure. Also goes on to say Hamilton is looking for lab rats to test their nasal vaccine. Don't be a guinea pig. Just say no. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff coming around. Yeah. So Denise says the original people do not want Alberta to separate. They're working on this now. Be ready. Okay. The original people do not want Alberta to separate. They're working on this already. Okay, so be ready. The whole idea of Alberta separating, we'll leave that for another show. It's a very huge possibility. And Vin, good morning to you. Sometimes people pushing the G fans net zero want to dim the sun. Makes sense? Yeah, exactly. The same people doing these things. You have to ask yourself, does anyone stand anything to gain by doing certain things, like having initiatives like geoengineering, dimming the sun, solar radiation technology? Marianne, good morning, everyone, from Barrie. Hand clap emoji and liked and shared as usual. Yes, so Operation Popeye since Vietnam, controlling the weather. It's been going on for a long time, and we'll just kind of pay attention at least and educate ourselves to be aware to see if it's happening in our own backyard. Denise says they can control the weather, but not when there's a big fire. They reject those, don't they? Yes, that's what I was saying. So when you could use it for good, they don't. If if there's an area going through a drought and all the farmers can't grow food, you don't see them scrambling to get it to rain. They have limited technology for that people are very aware of, cloud seeding, to help with that. But there's bigger technology out there that we have to face every day. These last few blizzards we got here just before spring or during spring, that was unnatural, totally unnatural. You could see the cloud formation stuff. If you watch the satellites like I was watching yesterday, all that was unnatural. All that rain, totally unnatural. It had no natural weather patterns to it whatsoever. It was all just being manufactured, basically. And you can see it on the satellites. And we'll get into that. People are like, oh, you're crazy. What are you talking about? Conspiracy. Okay, no, just stay tuned for a second. We'll get to it. Don't worry about it. Hold on to your, you know what. And Trevor, now I'm not able to read this for some reason. Okay. Now that the election is over and the Liberals can get back to business, how long until the rest of your legally obtained firearms show up on the confiscation list? Before or after net zero carbon taxes are maxed out, or maybe after the announcement of possible climate lockdowns? Don't shoot the messenger. And yes, lots of those things are coming up. You got an obituary for Canada here. The True North Strong and Free, 1877 to 2025. Born July 1st, 1867 in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, Canada. Passed away peacefully, or perhaps just quietly, as is tradition, on April 28th, 2025 in Ottawa, Ontario. He was 148 years old, though in recent years he often felt much, much older. This is really cool. You have the whole obituary here for people to read. I would encourage people to do that. Hopefully Facebook keeps that comment there, so it's there, and they just choose to take certain comments off if they want. I'm not sure why. Pierrette said, Carney with the global boiling bunch, United Nazis, UN. Interesting. Denise says there's a blackout coming. It's to last for a couple of years. Don't say nobody told you. I'm telling you. Many of us have tried to tell you. And are we ready for that? Okay. I know there's a lot coming, and that definitely possible to be part of it, because power gives people power, right? So if you don't have power, it takes away your power. And if there are people who are interested and have control of the power, and they love control, and that's one way to control people. Control the food supply, control the power, control the bare necessities of life kind of thing, the money, all this stuff. And again, people are like, how could you talk about stuff like this? That's insane. We got, just bear with us for a second here. A couple more morning shout outs and we'll get right into it. Liette says, I'm tired of the people denying and not being concerned that we are being sprayed with deadly chemicals. What are they spraying? And what's it doing to our health? Exactly. So Jerome, good morning to you. Geoengineering is real. Living in oblivion is easier than addressing the truth. I would say, yeah, definitely is. Ignorance is bliss. Andrew, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. And Belinda says so many respiratory problems with all these chemicals, all by design. And good morning, Julia. Thanks for being on. Good morning to you. And Marianne, according to those in charge, we only get so many days of sunshine because vitamin D is very important. I would say so as well. Spraying the skies against informed consent, it's a crime, pure and simple, for sure. We'll get more into that with our doctor friend from the UK. Nana, we should have Natalie Labby on to ask her to check into chemtrails, geoengineering, and cloud seeding over the Sudbury area. Now, it's true. I mean, some states in the United States have already made it illegal to spray over their states. I'm not sure how much the city could do. However, I mean, it needs to start somewhere. And first of all, it's just to acknowledge that they're even there. And good morning, David. Thanks for being on. Marianne says, absolutely. I tell people, don't look at me like I have 3 heads. Do your damn research. Then come back to me. Patents don't lie. There are many patents out here for this stuff. Sheila, good morning from Quebec. Thanks for being on. Cloggers jamming our drainage engineering. So, okay, so possibly the water is really not being drained these days. That's for darn sure. And with that, let's just get right into it. People are like, I want to just tell me what you've been talking about all this time already. I need the proof. I need someone to actually say, not just spouts conspiracy theories all day. So here you go. England is starting to come out and just say their government is going to start funding geoengineering in England, the dimming of the sun. And you know who this guy is if you've been paying attention to anything on the internet these days. Our good friend, our doctor from the UK. Take it away.
Well, we've just learned that the United Kingdom is about to start experiments in solar radiation management. And this gives rise to some concerns. And the first one is consent. I didn't give consent for this, and I suspect you didn't give consent for this. And if you're living in the United States or Canada or Australia, you certainly didn't give consent for this. And I haven't been informed. So we don't have the informed consent that we would like. Now, the thing about this so-called solar radiation management is it dims the amount of sunlight that gets to the Earth. It's reducing the amount of incident solar radiation. And of course, all our food depends on incident solar radiation from the sun. So here we have the potential to reduce the amount of food that's produced to control agriculture. The obvious question is, who will be in control? No one's approached me to take control. Has anyone approached you to take control? What great elites, what betters, what senior intellects will be in control of this, allowing the amount of sunlight that us plebs on the earth get? Will produce less vitamin D, of course, as well. But we can take tablets for that. But the main thing is the food. If you can control food production, make no mistake, you control everything. If someone's hungry, they'll do anything for food. So we don't want elites controlling our amount of sunlight and therefore the amount of food that we have. And sunlight's necessary for all food chains, plants and the animals and absolutely everything. And of course, it's necessary for photosynthesis. Now, am I getting something wrong here? So we're going to reduce the amount of sunlight that comes to the earth. That reduces the amount of photosynthesis. Now, what photosynthesis is, it takes water and carbon dioxide. It takes energy from the sun. It combines that into sugars, and it also gives us oxygen. So I used to teach my students the equation: 6 molecules of H2O plus 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, plus the energy from the sun gives C6H12O6, which is a simple sugar molecule, plus 6 molecules of oxygen. Now, I thought we were being told that there was too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, but photosynthesis is that which takes carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. So am I missing something here? And I also kind of like to breathe oxygen occasionally as well, because that's produced by photosynthesis. So why would we want to be reducing photosynthesis? Less photosynthesis, more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the antithesis of what we're told we want. And yet we're going to be reducing the amount of solar radiation coming to the surface of the Earth. Now, at the moment, this is a £50 million project. Doesn't sound too small to me. And it's probably being done already, but this is an official £50 million project that they're being forced to admit to at the moment. What are the risks here? Well, changes in the weather. The world, Asia, Africa, depends on the monsoon. It has to be the seasonal monsoon to produce the world's food supply. The risk of that being disrupted is immense. We could be talking about famine on a Herculean massive scale here, a biblical scale. And then there can be local effects. Maybe one area is going to be affected and another area is not going to be affected. And that can give rise to regional tensions. One group raiding another area for food. There's all sorts of nasty implications potentially here if there's regional effects in the way that the radiation from the sun gets to the earth and generates agriculture. And we're kind of treating the symptoms here, really, rather than treating the underlying problems. We need to consider the way that we interact with our natural environment. The ecosystem is an amazing place. We've got plants and animals, of course. wonderful, but we've also got, in the background you can see from me now, there's 10 to the 22 types of virus. Not viruses, 10 to the 22 types. Bacteria, fungi. It's all in an integrated web with complexity beyond our imagination. And I was a chartered biologist for a while. I have studied this. And it's just beyond our imagination to know how this complicated system works, but it does. And human interference could be really a bad idea. So it's not really what we want. So they're the problems, some of the risks. Let's proceed with great caution on this one, shall we? Please, United Kingdom government. And if you're in a government from another if you're in a jurisdiction in another part of the world, I think you can probably share our concerns. I'm going to give you more details on this shortly, but that's just a quick overview. And of course, if we want to get rid of carbon, we could plant some more of these amazing created structures, these trees. Why don't we plant more of those if we're so worried about carbon dioxide? But for now, elites don't interfere with our ecosystem. I don't give informed consent, and don't mess with things you don't understand, because no matter how clever you are, I don't really believe you do understand ecosystems. They are very complicated, delicate, and must be respected.
Right? Or what? Exactly. And informed consent, as Disabled Kane pointed out, and we don't give it. So how could they then go ahead with doing what they're doing? Because they don't need us to agree anymore. We have less and less say, and they have more and more ability and power to do whatever the heck they want. And if you're still not, you're like, oh, whatever, this guy, whatever. They're going to try some experiment out. And thanks for the people that just are joining us a little bit late this morning. Welcome to the show. It's your first time. We just do our best to look at the things that are going on in our local area, trying to ask some questions and see what's going on and shed light on things that wouldn't normally get light shed on them in our normal way in our local area, and then also in our region, in our country. And I just noticed in our world, basically, trying to make sense of things. It's getting more and more complicated. But I did notice, being, for the last, more than 30 years, of just constant getting sprayed. Those long straight lines in the sky, and then they start, there's one, and then there's two, and then they crisscross. And you're like, okay, well, that's contrails, it's just contrails. It's just the jets flying over that. That's normal, right? Well, no, it's part of the geoengineering program that's been going on for years and years and years. And geoengineeringwatch.org made a really great documentary on the dimming of the sun, right? So I just wanted to play some excerpts from that, just for the people that may not have heard of these things.
Perhaps the greatest lie ever perpetrated on populations all over the world is the condensation trail lie. What we're seeing in our skies is not condensation. It's sprayed particulate dispersions, with very few exceptions.
They shouldn't be there. Jet engines burn clean. So if there's anything coming out of them, it's an additive.
They're absolutely not contrails. Contrails do not linger, dissipate, and go into cloud coverage, period, in the report.
And I kept saying to people, what is this? Because now the sky is no longer blue, it's starting to turn gray. And what I found was kind of like, it was not socially acceptable. We're all going to pretend this is not really happening. And I thought, oh, this is very bad.
Most are unfamiliar with a science term called global dimming. That term refers to the amount of direct sunlight that no longer reaches the surface of the planet due to light scattering particles that are building up in the atmosphere. And although many of these particles are from industrialized pollution, the larger majority are from the ongoing climate engineering solar radiation management operations. This engine, a high bypass turbofan jet engine, this is the engine that is on all military tankers and all commercial carriers, is in essence a jet-powered fan. 90% of the air that moves through this engine is non-combusted. This engine by design is nearly incapable of producing any condensation trail except under rare and extreme circumstances. And again, we have film footage of aircraft flying at altitude with nozzles visible, turning on and off. That is the end of the argument. Since even before man could fly, there was an effort to try to modify the weather. We have weather modification patents going back 100 years plus.
These are historical films of what can be done with a biplane, a small biplane that carries a very small payload. And that much can be done. How much more can a fully loaded military tanker, KC-10, KC-135, C-17 Globemaster, how much more material can they put in the air? About 500 times more with a single tanker.
In regard to the condensation trail narrative, many refer back to the trails left by World War II bombers as proof that we are only seeing condensation trails in our skies. But geoengineeringwatch.org found on military archives film footage, which we posted, of World War II B-17s at altitude turning off a sprayed dispersion. We know that climate engineering was deployed immediately after World War II, so testing was absolutely ongoing. Clearly, these bombers were used for beta testing. Film footage proves it.
Weather was a weapon used over Vietnam. Would you expect that to be then deleted from the availability? No. To continue to expand the scientific aspects of it, to have it available in your portfolio of weapons would be a natural process. Therefore, should you expect that it is available on demand to have the ability to modify weather? Absolutely, within this country and others.
Climate engineering is the crown jewel of the military-industrial complex. Climate engineering has been used to destabilize and topple nations all over the globe, facilitating military occupations by hostile countries like the US. We know that some of these countries are having their precipitation cut off because they have stated so on the floor of the UN, like the president of Iran stating emphatically that NATO weather modification programs were cutting off the precipitation to Iran, but US media never covered it.
We have an economic model operating globally, which is operating based on covert force. And I have very serious questions after watching the financial patterns as to whether that financial force or that force includes weather warfare.
People were coming to me, telling me about this. So because of that, I went to the government in Ottawa under Freedom of Information. There was a 40-page report, of which half the pages were completely blank, and the other half had a lot of blank outs. But there was sufficient information to tell me that, yeah, they're aware. They call it geoengineering.
One of the big problems is that when we find some new technology, we get all excited by it, by the potential benefits of that technology, and often implement it and use the technology before we have any idea of the negative effects.
Shouldn't it be considered that every breath we take is laden with highly toxic particles that are wreaking havoc in our own bodies? Particles that aren't being reported by any air quality testing systems. Any official air quality testing are looking for PM10 are PM 2.5, 2.5 microns at best. The climate engineering nanoparticulates are exponentially smaller. They go virtually unreported.
These nanomaterials generate reactive oxygen species in biological materials, damage tissue, lead to advanced aging, cause cancer, causative agents of dementia. So, yeah, we might think that we're doing something positive for humanity to save our species, but we're also poisoning ourselves.
Eventually, with the team that we formed at geoengineeringwatch.org, we were able to acquire a NOAA flying lab. We were able to test at altitude to confirm the elements that were showing up at the surface.
Our intention was to do a point-to-point sampling mission. We could see these obvious patterns that were being laid out in the sky. We were really thankful for the opportunity to be able to get up to altitude. And on the return mission, we noticed that that cloud layer had descended. And we sampled below the cloud layer, we sampled through that confluent layer and above it.
We found exactly the same elements listed in climate engineering patents, the same elements we found on countless surface tests of precipitation from all over the globe. Governments all over the globe and the entire climate science community are telling the population urgently that climate engineering operations, solar radiation management operations need to be immediately deployed to try to mitigate the warming of our planet, to try to preserve what's left of its life support systems. And yet when the public, those that are awake, try to bring to the attention of academia and elected officials that we see climate engineering already being conducted in our skies all over the globe. It's already been deployed. Lab tests prove it. Film footage proves it. Documents prove it. And yet we have the continued denial from the climate science community and official agencies telling us that we're not really seeing what we're seeing in the skies. They tell us if climate engineering were deployed, it would look exactly like what we're seeing in our skies. But then again, they tell us that we're not really seeing what we are actually seeing. The paradox is the more the climate engineers spray the planet, destroy the ozone layer, disrupt the hydrological cycle, and increase the overall warming of the planet, the more they feel they have to ramp these programs up to try to mitigate some of the damage that these programs have done in the first place. That is the true definition of insanity.
As a society, we are like a freight train heading for a broken bridge that is just a few years away from us. And I think people don't understand the exponential increase of toxicity in the environment.
These operations should be considered the most insane endeavor ever deployed by the human race. These operations are systematically derailing all of Earth's life support systems in the attempt to blot out the sun. The myopic, short-term objective of trying to cool the planet while worsening the overall warming. The climate engineers, if these operations are allowed to continue, are pounding the nails into our collective coffins.
From a scientific perspective, and what we know about nanomaterials and their effect on human health and the environment, this is a serious problem. And it really does warrant further scientific investigation.
We need the answers to get to the bottom of this national security problem.
And the documentary goes on. That was 10 minutes of an hour and 56-minute documentary, right? First 10 minutes. So I would encourage everyone to just look it up. It's Geoengineering Watch. You can go to geoengineeringwatch.org, and on there you can see the documentary. You could find it on YouTube as well by going to Geoengineering Watch. The Dimming is the name of the documentary. And the reason why we're talking about this today again is just because I'm just tired of it. I just can't. It just drives me crazy. Every day I'm driving on the highway, just looking up, and it's there every single day. Now, mind you, there's a couple days where it's not. Okay. A couple days where it's not. People love to point that out. They'll say, oh yeah, no more sunny days, They're always going to be spraying or whatever. And someone's like, oh, look, there's nothing in the sky, you know. Wow, one day there's nothing in the sky, and you're pointing that out to me? Well, what about the other 364 days, you know, where there is something there? And what's with this, you know, like I'll look up and I'll ask someone, what type of cloud is that? You remember back in the day when you learned about clouds, all the different types, you know, in school. And the teacher would go, there's this type of cloud, that type of cloud. Well, what are these new clouds we got? They're blanket clouds. They just look like a blanket over your head. That's not a cloud. It's a blanket of chemicals that look like clouds. And I know that we don't want to think. I know it hurts to think of something that we don't normally, you know, think of, or we have a hard time believing is true. But please, just don't be in denial. Like, and you don't care. Like, honestly, if I was to walk up to you and spray you with poison in your face and say, yeah, it's poison, you know, I just sprayed your face with poison. I'm sorry. I just had an impulse. You wouldn't go, no, you didn't. I don't know what you're talking about. You know, you just wouldn't. You'd be very concerned. You'd be very concerned if someone sprayed poison in your face. What's the difference between spraying poison in your face and spraying poison over your head every single day? But as long as you don't acknowledge it, I guess it doesn't really have an effect on you or your family, the people you care about, your kids, your spouse, your friends, you know, people that you really care about. If you don't even care about yourself, what about people you care about breathing this stuff in? And what's it doing? If you really do care about the environment, if you're an environmental activist and you think, yes, let's dim the sun to cool the earth. Well, what are the chemicals doing to the earth itself when they fall to the earth, right? Well, if we don't think about it, we don't actually have to worry about it, right? We don't have to acknowledge it. If we don't acknowledge it, then there's no problem, right? So that's where we're at. And maybe it's too big of a thing for people to think about. It's too out of your control. CBC didn't have it on their show. It wasn't on CBC, so it can't be real, right? If it was, CBC would be talking about it. They'd be telling me, because that's who's out there to tell me what I need to be worried about or not. I need to be worried about Donald Trump's tariffs. That's what I need to be worried about. Elbows up. You know, that's what I need. But you're driving to work and they're spraying right over your head and you don't even know it or don't even realize it. Or you realize it and you're like, that's a contrail. That's been happening ever since there was jets. And to know the difference between a con and a chemtrail, contrails are like little tails that dissipate right away and follow the plane. It almost looks like it's a little tail on the plane of exhaust, and then it just goes away. It's a little tail. Chemtrails stay in the sky. The big lines that go from one end of the sky to the other, and they don't go away, and they start spreading out. And some might even think it's a cloud. And then I'll ask, okay, it's kind of getting overcast, partly cloudy, right? That's what the weather guys, partly cloudy right now. So, okay, it was partly cloudy. What kind of cloud is that? Exhaust cloud? Blanket cloud? It's just a big blanket of chemicals. Start paying attention if this is the first time you're hearing about this. It's been going on most of your life if you're 30 years old or younger. And if you're over that, maybe you remember times when it wasn't really like that. And it's getting fewer and fewer of people that are around that remember the days before we were bombarded with chemicals in our skies each and every day. So ask yourself, is there such a thing as a blanket cloud? You know, And just pay attention to the day. Look at the sky, at whatever time, 11, 9 in the morning, and then look at it again at 12:30 and 4 and onward, and pay attention to that one big line that comes from the jet. You see the jet going across and a big long line behind it? And just kind of keep an eye on that for a while, Every once in a while, check back in on it. And then it turned into a cloud, a blanket cloud, And then it rains. What's in the rain? Do we know what? Rain is a little particle, right? That moisture forms around it, and then it's so heavy it drops to the earth. So that's a very layman's term, explanation of when it rains. A little dust particle, we were told, that's in school. And then condensation forms around it, it gets too heavy, it falls. But let's say that little particle was a chemical particle that was sprayed in the sky, and then moisture formed around this chemical, this unnatural thing that's not supposed to even be in the sky. And then it falls to the earth. And you see your grandson out there with his mouth open. Oh, water, I'm drinking this stuff. Or the snow, which is the same. It's going to turn either into rain or snow as it falls to the earth. And you see your little guy reach down and want to do what, we've done as older folks when we were younger. Grab some of that snow and put it in your mouth. And you remember it was a little magical when you were young. But you're like, no, don't put that in your mouth. It's poisonous. Because that's what it is. And people are wondering why our hospitals are full to capacity, and you got different health problems that you have. And that's not the only reason why we have health problems, by the way. There's certain things in our water that we drink, in our tap water, that we have to be asking ourselves, why do we put certain things in our tap water? First of all, why are you drinking tap water to begin with? And there's foods that we're eating. There's things in the food. There's things we're putting into our bodies, jabbing ourselves with, have different things that cause different things in our body. So there's all kinds of reasons why we're sick. But if you're being sprayed with chemicals every day, you can bet your bottom dollar that's going to affect certain segment of the population with breathing issues, right? And then more. Well, once you breathe it in, then it's in your body. Now what? What else could it cause, right? So if you don't care about your health, you don't care about your family's health, you don't care if someone is just spraying without your consent over your head, keep going on with your regular day. I think the first thing to do is acknowledge when something's happening. You can't make a change if you don't even acknowledge it, right? So that's where we're at here. It's like somebody's going on for an hour-long show to try and convince someone the sun is there, or the moon is there. It's that crazy of a thing to think. It's that obvious of a thing. Like, we should already be going on, how can we stop this from happening, not trying to convince people that it's actually going on when it's going on right over their heads every single day. And then we're not even talking about the weather that happens afterwards, like this farmer that's going to lose his farm, and a lot of other neighbors going to lose their farms because of the flooding that it causes, right? We're not even talking about the effects that way on people's lives. These are people's lives and livelihoods that are being affected. Tornadoes, hurricanes, you name it. Crazy. But anyways, all the time we got. Hope everyone have a good weekend, everyone. Stay safe and stay positive, even though, at least be aware of the world you live in. And it takes a certain kind of person, I guess, to be aware of these types of things and still be positive. But I know most of the people that are on the show day in and day out are that kind of person, and I appreciate you for being that. Thanks, everyone. Remember to stay positive, stay safe, share, take care, stay aware, and We'll be back same time, same place on Monday on the same platforms, God willing. And thank goodness it's Friday. Have a great weekend. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Ciao, everyone.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.